Question is, do I have enough light? What's up, everybody on YouTube? And I got people going over on Facebook as well. Normal spot tonight for Gun News Weekly. A little bit different tonight, for sure, for several reasons. And that will prove its way through this conversation. Appreciate you tuning in as always. Thanks to our favorite people out there from Lanzang Tactical. Make sure that's on the video. And thanks to everybody in the chat over on Facebook. So we're good to go. Yeah, it's been an interesting 6 weeks, and this is not the normal Thursday night Gun News Weekly. This is Kevin hanging out, talking to y'all. There's just a need to do this for several reasons. But you know, I'm sitting here and I'm taking a look at this Glock. And I got these new night sights on it. And a friend of mine gave me these, Jacob Herman, at the Big 3 Media event. And, you know, normally on a Thursday night Gun News Weekly, we'd be talking about that event, the follow-through, follow-up, talking about the march, which we'll get to, but for different reasons. And the reason I show that gun is my day today. And part of this conversation and what I want to share with you tonight is just where I'm at and where I'm going and what the future looks like. And so the easiest way to do that is just kind of talk out loud. Before I get started, my convictions on the Second Amendment, the Constitution, your right to defend yourself using any means necessary to be more aggressive than the force that's trying to hurt you, that never wanes. That doesn't change. Nothing that happened here in Parkland changes my opinion that everyone should have the skills and has the right to defend their home, themselves, their family, using firearms, because in America, like it or not, they're here. Bad guys got them. People with bad intentions will use them to take advantage of you. The only thing that stops aggression is equal or greater aggression. Anything less, the aggression, once someone's made that decision to be aggressive and try to take advantage of you, it's going to happen. They're going to do it. Your only option is to either fight back or be a victim. I've never said anything other than fight back and that the Second Amendment is here to protect your rights to have guns in America. And while I'm at it, to set aside anyone that may watch this and say, Tac Daddy's a FUD now, Tac Daddy's changed, et cetera, because there's been all this nonsense that I've heard along the way, whatever. Quite frankly, I'll put my track record over the last 5 years advocating Second Amendment rights, advocating and sharing with people how to train your kids, showing people all the different brands and companies that are out there providing the different tools that we use, 1,600 videos, 5 years live every Thursday night, 264 episodes, sharing story after story, examining case after case of people using guns to defend themselves when they're faced with evil, over and over and over again. What else? I get some smaller written here shit here too. I've been on countless other shows talking about this, including, you know, everything from InfoWars with Biggs to all the other channels that have invited me on, to the gun channels chats. I've been there. I go to SHOT Show every year. We interview people. We talk about new products. Again, we brought more live coverage from SHOT Show than anyone when all that first stuff started. NRA events, Big 3 events, coverage all over the place. Like I said, at this point, the amount of contacts that I have in this industry and the amount of movers and shakers, I guess you could say, you know, it's on par with anyone out there. You know, we do a lot of things. We talk to a lot of people. We know a lot of the things that are going on that the average person just doesn't. We're industry insiders, so to speak. And, you know, when I go and I look back at the old Tac Daddy videos, it's funny because they were really purpose driven of me going through the process of carrying every day with a permit in the state of Florida, but also training the kids, talking to the girls, teaching them responsible gun ownership, getting them to the range so that at least I know that they have the skill set and understand the safety rules, most importantly, obviously. and getting that all the way up to the, some of the other things that I've done in the industry, whatever it may be, it's out there. And now again, running Funker Tactical as the director of operations, working with some of the best trainers, some of the best instructors, and some of the best video producer guys in the world in this industry, and sharing with people. And we'll get to one of Ryan Hoover's new things at the 511 stores that we're doing through Aperture, and again, moving it and testing it, and now getting acceptance and getting it across the country, in addition to other things that we want to do. That's something that you can't ever discount, for the record. And there will be people that want to talk shit. That's fine. Go ahead. You were probably never in my corner in the first place, to be honest with you. And that goes back to 5 years ago with this show. The environment. Ross and I were having these great conversations, and some of this is repeats, so bear with me. But Ross and I were having these great conversations. We said, we always end up talking about guns in the end. Why don't we just do a live show and take the Tac Daddy thing live? So we created Tac Daddy Live, which turned into Gun News Weekly. It's been the constant. It's been, it's been there. It was about talking to my brother, talking with friends, hanging out, talking about guns and upgrades that you might do, like these night sights, talking about training, talking about being with family and teaching them responsible gun ownership in America, and covering all the stuff. Hey, Ross, tell Casey to chill, if you don't mind. And that's what it's always been about. Sharing this channel, this part of the channel, the Gun News Weekly piece, has always been about making sure that people see and understand that there are good people out there that, when faced with shitty situations, again, are responsible enough to turn to a firearm to defuse that situation. And that's what it's been all about. And we've covered all of these topics, all of these different stories. And, now I forgot to pull that up, stand by. And then now we have the Parkland shooting, and this is literally in my backyard, if you're unaware. I'm pretty sure everyone's aware of that by now. And hold on, I forgot to download this email. It's got the thing that I need to read. Stand by. There it is. All right. All right. And the Parkland shooting unfolds. And no matter how you shake it, 17 local people are no longer with us. They're dead. Another 14 to 17 injured. A guy went mad, took one of these guns that we talk about all the time, and went into a school and started shooting people. Yeah, I'm good, Casey. And no matter how you shake it, it's changed everything. It's changed the entire community. It's changed my family. It's changed me. There is no way to say it any other way. When something like this occurs, the aftermath, the 6 weeks after, all of the things that I've gone through, some of which I've shared on this show, some of which I'll share and reiterate again tonight, because that's the point. I mean, it's something that you don't expect, obviously, but then it happens and then you deal with it, right? And so dealing with it, one of the things that I put out afterwards was I couldn't say anything. I felt like so conflicted, because here I am, a guy in the industry that works in the media, in the industry with all these companies. And then at the same time, I'm a dad that's affected, that's got 2 kids and a wife that's been affected. And oh, by the way, my niece down the street and their family affected, grandma in the neighborhood across the street. And so I wrote this, and I'll just read it. I'm realizing my reality is very different. And this was a few days after, when I realized everyone was still freaking out and dealing with the shock of everything. And I had, through this show, I think I had basically conditioned myself that A, these things can happen. B, you're not bulletproof to it. No pun intended. Meaning it can happen to you. You hear that shit all the time. We never thought it would happen here. You hear that every single time. And it couldn't be more true. And before I go to this, this is the dream neighborhood. This is the situation when I was a teenager or in college, and I said, one day I want to have a wife and kids and live in a neighborhood, I was able to obtain that. And there's a lot of people around here that, again, I guess probably felt because you pay a little more in taxes for a little better schools, et cetera, that your kids are going to be safe. And the truth of the matter is, as we all know now, that's just not the case. I wrote here, I'm realizing my reality is different. I've trained with the guy who created the doctrine that teaches every IDF soldier in Israel how to fight. I've trained with scout snipers, airmen, Marines, SEALs, and alongside true warriors and national heroes. Friends of mine have fought and have brothers who have died in wars and conflicts. I have friends with PTSD and deal with the realities of their past daily. I'm friends with what I call real men. They own and operate businesses within the firearm world in some cases. I've sat alongside some of these gentlemen and dined with them, and some of these gentlemen have dedicated their lives to training people during active shooter dangers for over 10 years and longer. Had been training people just a few weeks ago about this. Sorry. My perspective about real evil in the world includes many stories surrounding good versus bad. That's the hardest part right now. Most people I care about are realizing the reality of the world we live in. The bubble they created or believe they bought into has now collapsed with so much pain and anger, it's immeasurable. I want to say something, but it's best I just show love and support right now. That's not easy for me to do, the Kevin keep quiet part. I want them to know what I know. It's not possible for me to reach them right now. And then I think I posted that on Facebook at some point because that's how I was really feeling right there in week one. And then I started dealing with things that, again, I just have a short list here because it's important to share. My kids, everything to me, like many of you, everything. And I want you all to imagine my new normal after the shock, the anger, all the tears, all the phone calls you hear them having with their friends, the vigils, the funerals, the fundraisers, 6 weeks of family dinners. So think about that, because that's our hub here. So think about how all that information started coming out and all the details and all those things night after night after night, and sharing that with your family. And like I said, don't worry. I'm not going to get to the point where I'm going to tell you I'm going to go turn in my ARs or something like that. Relax. Stick with me. I'm not reading comments, so I can only imagine. But I'll say it again. Taking your children in a week to funeral after funeral of kids that they used to see and know at school. The emotional side of this, you can't measure it. My wife, that again, I knew in high school. I met her when the kids were there. My kids are now there, or when we were that age. It took forever to say. What's interesting about my relationship with my wife is she and I have seen bad stuff. I remember one time we watched some guy get his head bashed in, curb stomped, like literally curb stomped. We've watched bad people do bad things. She knows that. She knows me from high school. She knows we've had guns forever. Thanks, dude. She knows that I have my conviction in wanting to make sure that nothing ever happens to us, not just me. And she's accepted that I'm a gun guy. She's accepted that, I have safes and all of those type things. At the same time, since this has happened, we've had arguments about guns. We've had arguments about the types of things that you see on social media and those types of things. Again, it's 6 weeks of this shit just pounding every single day. So you can imagine what the rollover is to the people that live here and live it and have kids that are living through it. And even again, on a drive we had, she got into an argument with me to a point where we were on Alligator Alley, so Google wouldn't have worked on the phone, but I literally had to say to her, I'm the fucking host of Gun News Weekly. You're arguing with me about stats. I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody on this shit. I know all the world stuff. I know the history numbers. I know the national numbers, the FBI crime statistics, all that stuff. We've talked about it so much. I could regurgitate all that shit for hours and give you story after story after story. that would try to counteract anybody's, well, that guy shouldn't have a gun. She and I went to the SOS Parkland meeting where parents got together and tried to talk about things that we can do now. Forget legislation, forget those things. What can we do as parents to fortify the schools, to make them stronger places or harder for people to get into that want to do damage? And that's, a pretty critical thing to analyze. What can we do? And then there's the police side of it. It's difficult for me to reconcile the police side of it because if you've watched the show for any length of time, this is a good LEO show. If you're a good cop, we think you're fantastic. Someone's got to police. Someone's got to save people who are unable to take care of themselves, or at least give the notion of protection to protect and serve. We've also talked about plenty of issues with bad cops. But now you want to add the disdain or even hatred that someone like myself may have for the people that, again, let's call it out, the BSO. We know what we're talking about. Sheriff Israel, the BSO. Now, you got to think about my disdain for that outfit, which is still going to be in charge of my children's safety after spring break this week. So when it comes to Gun News Weekly and all the cop stories that we cover, it's just hard to reconcile that in my head right now. And honestly, part of me thinks that I should drop the mic and do nothing but be at the BSO every day, demanding change and asking them what are they going to do different, or go into the city and get in the Coral Springs Police Department, who I know is going to be there when called upon to take care of business like this in the past. I know there's good cops. I was on the phone with great cops like Chad, one of my friends, Chad, that works under the Funker and Aperture banner, jiu-jitsu instructor, full-time police officer in Las Vegas. I know this guy's a good guy, a good dad. I was over talking to Scott earlier today, getting my sights put on because I have a friend, and I called him and said, hey, you got one of those Glock tools? And he did, and ran over. And next thing you know, I was shaking hands with gentlemen who were there when called upon, first responders that went in, one of the top SWAT guys, a student, Marine student standing there getting training. That's what I see in a day. Just an average day going and taking care of something. And now I'm watching these guys. And again, I'm not mad about it, buddy. Don't worry. Don't judge. I really couldn't care. But I noticed that I was introduced as the guy with a couple of kids that were in that school. And I know my girls are now, again, they're worried about being identified in college and those types of things. As soon as someone says you, where are you from? And you say Parkland, it's on. Those questions and that stuff come up. So there's all these things, all those things. And again, I didn't expect you to say, hey, this is the Tack Daddy. Excuse me for a second. But I met these heroes, and I met the guy who you probably saw on television who was not in uniform and was watering the baseball field and had a wife and a kid in the school and ran. Real heroes. And it's on with CJ, by the way. Little CJ. Little jerk didn't come and say hello today. So I'm getting somewhere. I can't even comprehend how long I've been talking. I apologize if it's boring. So then this whole thing unfolds, and this is the conflict I'm having with being the host of Gun News Weekly. This is the conflict when it comes down to it. You have 5 kids who are classmates with my kids. They go to the same school. They're in some of the same classes. They're in some of the same after-school activities. And you now have these 5 kids in general, the Time Magazine cover kids, that, in my opinion, their agenda, so to speak, is obviously come to surface to be nothing but one thing. When the kids that were angry could have gone after, again, they could have blamed the guns. They could have blamed the kid himself. They could have blamed the safety at the school. They could have blamed the BSO for not doing what they should have done. They could have blamed the FBI. Let's not forget the FBI's dropped balls. I said it. They could have gone after, culture and community and building stronger bonds and being there. No, they went after the guns. And the problem with this is I have my own theory, and it's based on 5 years of hosting this show, and it's based on how this works. In essence, if you connect the dots and you watch it unfold, I literally felt like Kreskin, because every night or every day I'd say something, this is what's going to happen next, and it would happen over and over and over during the first 3 weeks. Now we're going to find out about this. And so what I feel like happened, point blank, my theory is that this is how it works. It's not just here. You had 5 eloquent kids who said, yes, I'll have a conversation with you. Their parents signed off on it, because let's not forget that their parents signed off on it. And I do put a huge amount of blame on the parents, because any of those parents could have said no. Once they got the ball rolling, I believe handlers from an entity that in some, I guess could you say they're waiting for something like this? There's definitely some outlines and some plans that were in place that when this happened, I believe some handlers came in, set up the appointments, got those kids out there, and truly exploited children for their cause. I think it's despicable and inexcusable that the children didn't even get time to mourn the loss of their friends or be with their classmates, because they were swept away and off to Hollywood and on to the next show, and couldn't show up to the candlelight vigil and couldn't be there at some of the get-togethers that some of the smaller groups had. I blame the exploitation of those kids on, again, a larger entity. Once I found out that every town was in charge of the march here, it's pretty easy to connect dots, as we have on this show many, many times. And the truth of the matter is, when you really look at it, these kids, these children, these classmates of my kids are now the face of the anti-gun movement in America. That's who they have become. And this show constantly is on the side of, let's talk about your rights to have guns. Let's talk about these stories where there's guns. Let's talk about where a good guy used a gun to stop a bad guy. All of that stuff. And then you look at the other aspect of this, which is you have this group that's taken these kids to exploit them in their loud voices. And on our side, on the far side of our side, you have some voices that are saying, again, get ready for civil war, because they're going to try to take our guns. And when they do, because these kids have ignited it, it's on, right? That's what they're saying. And that, plus this, I hope I don't run into him again. I don't know how it came across my feed, but this dude from Weapons Education goes to the actual march last Saturday, and he's standing there amongst the families, the friends, and the students with his stupid fucking Weapon Education shirt and his homemade banners, trying to get people to talk, trying to get content for his channel. And I sat there and I was like, what the fuck? And I'm reading some of these other big YouTubers and pro 2A guys, and it's some of them sound like fucking lunatics to me at this point, to be quite frank. First of all, on both sides, what happened to manners? What happened to manners in this country? You've got teenage kids cursing out adults and adults with titles. What about living your life with a code of conduct that includes morals and values? And how does all that get thrown to the side when it comes to a topic that you are fired up about? And again, back to the code of conduct and the morals and values. How do you look at something like this and exploit children that way? They should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. And what it dawned on me, and again, thanks to my buddy, appreciate it, dude. Just because you can say it doesn't always mean you should. Just because you can go to the anti-rally in Parkland and talk about your gun rights doesn't mean you should on that day. Doesn't mean you don't have the right. And I'll defend all of their rights to say all that crazy shit and have all those stupid signs you saw, some of them absolutely ridiculous when you break it down. I get it. But we have to defend their right to do that. But we have to also educate them on what they're really saying and what they're fighting against. And so I have to make a choice. I can either become a beacon of anger and reason, or both, and be the guy that wants to go take on these 5 kids and prove to them that our side's right because I'm here in Parkland, or continue to do shows like this where obviously in the chats, in the stories here tonight, I mean, you're talking about kids that are now just general stuff I'm pulling up. It's got the whole Hitler thing with the girl and the guy. Then you go and you find out that, then you go find out that the other David Hogg's sister is now tweeting, and they're all against Laura Ingraham, and now they're trying to boycott this and that. And again, I'm gonna get in arguments and have conversations about all these different things, and then I'm gonna go to the grocery store or to my kid's performance when she's at a play, and I'm gonna be the guy that's taking on the 5 kids that, point blank, right or wrong, most of the people around here have adopted as pseudo celebrities. So proud of how strong they are. I mean, again, this parade had a lot of people showing up to support this whole movement, which we know is an anti-gun movement. So when I look at all of this, I really don't know what I'm going to do next week. But what I know is, on the 5% on this side yelling and the 5% on this side yelling, I'm ashamed or embarrassed to be with this 5%. Talking like you'll never have a conversation. Talking like you never want to ever. Again, I'm not talking about infringing rights. Go back to the beginning of the show. And the truth of the matter is, the more and more I look at this, and the more and more I look at my social feed, those children, those kids are going to be the face of the anti-gun movement for years to come now. And I'm not sure that I'm the guy that needs to be yelling against them, especially when we got all these other asshats on the other 5% on our side, and you know who they are. They're willing to go after them. They're willing to do that to balance it out. So I don't know what's next. But what I know that, once again, the big points is that as this has unfolded, it's affected my family and my world tremendously. And all the conversations with my kids, and fans of the show, you'd be happy to know that Allie and I did get back to the range this week. She's good to go. She didn't break stride. And I think it's about noise. I think it's about a couple other things that she'll probably have to work through. But we got the private range. Thanks again to Nexus. It's never not going to be a part of my life, and to be the host of this show and try to be unbiased or not have the emotional side of what's on the other side of that door right there. I don't know that that's something I can do. And that's why I don't know what next week brings. However, I'm incredibly proud of what's going on with some of the other stuff that I'm involved with and going to be more involved with, including the seminar that you can go over to Aperture Fight Focused or Funker Tactical on Facebook and watch that 511 seminar that Ryan Hoover put on. Watch that whole thing. Check that out. That's the kind of thing that's going to go nationwide. It'll be in stores near you very soon. In addition, we're doing a 3-day class, Citizen Defender, Apex boot camp with Todd Fossey and some other instructors, where 10 of the Fit to Fight black belts are going to be the students and going through a real world 3-day. It's going to include everything. And I've seen the whole roster and everything. It's the type of event that when you see this footage, you're going to want to go, because it's going to improve your skill set when it comes to active shooters and unexpected situations and all that type of stuff. So my direction may be going in a little different direction, but have no illusions. Again, I have nothing but the intentions of preaching that it's up to you to take care of your safety, of you, your family, your home. And that includes proper, regular firearm safety with great weapons that, again, you choose by yourself based on what your needs are. So let me see if there's any questions. Let me actually go over to other thing real quick on just while I got you. Make sure you go over the other thing that I was able to do that was very cool at the Big 3 Training Center at the Big 3 East. Shout out to Schwell, CJ, the entire range staff, all the crew there. Thumbs up to everybody once again. Watch last week's shows. But go check out on Kevin the Tack on this channel. Go check out on Kevin the Tack Daddy on YouTube. Tonto's message to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School JROTC. Very cool. Thanks again to Tonto. I was able to catch him for a minute, get a message. And that's the kind of stuff I can do. I can facilitate these types of things. And I can be a part of the healing process here in Parkland, because it turns out we're not going anywhere, at least for now. And that means I've got kids that are going to be going back, participating in all this bullshit with clear backpacks, all that stuff. And again, maybe there's going to be some chats I'll jump on and have conversations and be a part of. Maybe that'll be something. Maybe someone will take the Gun News Weekly brand on a Thursday night. Hint, hint, have a conversation, give me a call, text me. And occasionally when it makes sense, I jump in and have conversations about things that are going on. But I think, like I said, after looking back over the history of the last, 5 weeks of this show, I just don't know how I can go forward. Brian, stop. I just don't know how I can go forward and not be this biased guy that's dealing with not just the logic side of it, not just the emotional side of it, but again, all of the sides of it, the cops, the kids, the students. And I'll leave you with this. When I started the Tack Daddy, I had 2 main rules. One was be myself. I knew you would, buddy, and I got you. One was always be myself, so I didn't have to ever say, Tack Daddy's a moniker. It's not a character. Go back and watch the other stuff. It was a little cheesier at the beginning, but it's still me telling you that this is a good holster or not. And the second one was never put out any content. Now, you got to remember, this is back before the girls were in high school. And I always thought they're going to be dating one day. There's going to be parents that know how to use the internet. So rule number 2 was always don't do anything or put any content out there that would embarrass the girls. And quite frankly, with the internet, with the way it is, it's not unheard of for me to say something that would be taken from somebody, shown to somebody else. Next thing you know, there's kids in my house that my girls are friends with, and they're looking at me and remembering that they saw some clip on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it was with me bashing one of their student friends. It's just not a good look. So go back, watch the beginning, hear about my convictions if you joined us late, but they remain true. I just don't know that this show is the direction or the outlet for me to continue down, at least for the immediate future. Maybe we take a while off, and like I said, we hand the reins over to some other people and see how it goes, or maybe participate in some other chats, or maybe just shut it all down and let somebody else run with something new. But I think the concept's great. I had a great time doing it. And I think that Ross and I are definitely going to figure out something to do. We were talking about it. You know, when you look at some of the other things that we think need to be fixed in this world, one of those things is culture. One of those things is being a good dad, parenting, that kind of shit, dad stuff. You know, maybe there's something there. I'm not too sure. And that could involve some gun stuff, obviously, because that's part of what we believe being a good dad is: gun safety, making sure that kids know this stuff. And are educated about it, but also the self-defense side of things. I think that direction is going to be something that, not just with firearms, combatives, I think just maybe me sharing my story with some of the other people that think right now it could never happen here. Maybe something like that can be a purpose-driven thing. I'm not sure yet. So as things continue to morph, I always appreciate your time. What was the other? Hold on. So check out Tonto's thing, and then stand by. Check out the 511 Aperture thing, self-defense video you need to watch with your family. That's the one. Also, if you are in the area here this Saturday, join me and a couple friends. Andrew Pollock's having a fundraiser. It's actually a motorcycle ride that ends at his home. And that you can find over on my personal YouTube or Andrew Pollack, Pollack, on Facebook. It's he's for his daughter Meadow, who, by the way, was shot and then covered up another girl. And the killer shot through her to kill the other girl as well. Meadow was a hero. Meadow's dad and family want to put together a permanent park, and they're going to fund that through a bunch of efforts, including a fundraiser this weekend. So it's at his house. Meadow's Playground is the project, and I'll give you the address. Stand by. Thought I had it. There it is. 4300 Northwest 101st Drive in Coral Springs. They're in need of donations for the silent auction. Everyone is invited.
From West Palm.
Oh, hey, everyone is invited, and that is on, again, this coming Saturday. Hit me up. And let me just pull up the YouTube and check comments real quick, and I'll check the ones here right now. I don't know if it's the final show to Clan. It might be the final Gun News Weekly. It might be another bridge. Who knows, dude? Just checking out. Let's see. Clan, I'll check that out. Tom's a dick. Jeez. So I'm not sure if it's the final show or not. I want to go to. Nah, it's not letting me check out the live show yet for some reason. Hold on. There it is. Hold on. I apologize. I can check comments now, though. That's a terrible, terrible thumbnail. I got like one eye open like a pirate. Let's see. Let me go back. Oh, y'all have been talking. All right. Ross is in the chat in there. Totally agree. What's up, everybody? It's good to see everybody in the chat. Let's see. Kevin, have you and your family sought therapy since the event? Good question. Yes and no. And that's personal, but yes and no. Some of the family has, some of the family's doing it in different ways. But we're all incredibly supportive of each other. And we all have our different support systems, I guess is the best way to put it. And some of the cool stuff I'll tell you about in a minute. Let's see what else. But I think that everyone needs to be talking. You know what I mean? I'm disappointed in all these kids protesting. They quit this. You know, the bullying thing is definitely something that needs to be discussed. I think the bullying thing is being treated probably a little differently since another school shooting, and a lot of the kids around the country saw that. You know, but we all know that's part of it, and we all know that these kids are mostly identified in advance. We all, you know, a lot of times they said we knew it would be someone like that. It's a new normal. You got to figure out what that means for you and your family. Yeah, I appreciate that. If you want to support me in any way or what we got going on, go over and buy a patch over at funkertactical.com. That'll support me. Well, it'll help. We're trying to get to the next patch. Got to sell all the gray ones first, but they're going pretty quick, actually. Let's see. Tano had a great message. Sorry, too hotty. It's the reality of the day, man. It's when I tell you, without trying to sound like an asshole, I mean, the toughest 6 weeks of my life. There is no playbook for this stuff. There's just, and again, it's every day. You think Trump's every day? Imagine what happens when the kids come home and start, and the key word of the day is clear backpacks. And that's a reality here. That's not just something you see and go, holy shit, that's preposterous. Oh, holy shit, those kids were asking for government and here's their government. That's reality here. They're going to go to school on Monday with no backpack, and they're going to come home with one of these clear backpacks. I'm pretty sure I'll go on Facebook with the clear backpack. What's up, Todd? You missed it. You got to go back to the beginning. It's been a long one. For relevance, you need the beginning. And I mentioned you just a minute ago. There's a lot of work to be done. None of it directly involves firearms. We need to create appreciation for the Constitution in general and our history. Good point. Thanks, Rich. You guys are class act. Remember these Thursday nights. I'm proud to be your friend. Thank you. And as well. All communities look at the signs there. But, you know, as I look at this, what's up, Nance? You know, as I look at this and I look at what my, you know, what I have, the other thing I'll tell you is this. I'm excited because I have this, you can't see it from there. I have this whiteboard that's 3x4 plus another one and another one that's got the calendar on it. I've got folders down here. I've got stacks of business cards over there that I'm trying to, again, I got a lot going on. Let's just put it that way. And I'm very excited about the projects that are on this board behind me, a couple of which I mentioned tonight, a couple of which you have no idea about because it's just in the planning stage. But it all involves what we've been doing in this community, so to speak, if that's really a thing. And I'm not sure it is. I just know that there's people that believe in your right to protect yourself, and there's people that got a problem with that for one reason or another. And I think that at this point, like I said, based on my circumstance, me screaming at kids that my kids go to school with and associate with, I don't know, man. I just can't imagine me and Ross getting in one of our regular fights and me having to yell at him because, you know, we just got there on a certain subject, and all of a sudden we're talking about these kids and something that one of them said. And again, I know what they all said this week. I know what shit pissed off the people that are loyalists to the Second Amendment and the Constitution and very staunch supporters that watch this show. Trust me, I'm fully aware of what they've said. Dude, you should see my whiteboards. They're color-coded. My daughter came in the other day. She's like, what is that all about? I was like, I just change markers for different topics. Makes sense to me. Let's see. Dan, that's the other point. And Dan has been here forever as well. Thanks, brother. Your scream would fall on deaf ears and create issues for the girls. That's the other point. Like I said, there's a lot of people that are screaming. And are you guys hungry now in the YouTube chat? Chicken dinner? Big Mac and fries? And I do believe there's going to be an opportunity for someone like myself, or maybe not, to have conversations with some of these kids that are either, again, in the limelight or not so much. And again, I know I can support the JROTC in a couple different ways, and I'm going to do that. And it is what it is. That's the other thing, Richard. I've thought about doing maybe some special reports. Maybe Gun News Weekly continues as a show, and I can be the guy that does some select roundtable special reports, live to tape kind of stuff. It's a great idea. And again, I know we got some great people that I'll be seeing soon that I can have these kind of conversations with, maybe a little more polished type of a production with some of the guys that are teaching this stuff. So appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm going to sign off for now. I'm going to spend some time with Katie and maybe watch some TV or chill out. But I appreciate everybody. I love you all. And I really do appreciate everybody that has supported this show from day one, especially Frank, who without him, the Gun News Weekly thing, the Tech Daddy thing, really probably would have never gotten off the ground. I would not have had the freedom or the wherewithal to get it done. So big ups to Frank. I know he's looking down on us and watching this situation and giving us strength when needed. So let's see. Waiting many more final thoughts. There's many more ways to be activists besides putting out videos. People need to understand we're all leaders of the gun community as long as we're active. I've seen several interviews with kids speaking about what select few anti-gunner kids are doing and saying, do you think there will be more of that? Yeah, Clover, I think that there is a little bit of a backlash against some of the kids that have been put out into the public because their voice has been the voice, and some of the other kids that didn't get to say anything, I think, have gotten a little upset. Let's see what that says. Been watching you from day one. Thank you for giving me an outlet to voice my opinions on the second and be accepted. If this is the last show, I'm going to miss you. The clan, I'll make sure that just make sure you're subscribed and follow me on Facebook. And when I do new live stuff, I'm sure you're going to be a part of it. But what's up, Tango? Make sure you go check out the beginning. A lot to talk about. I got to make sure Tango Lima sees this, or otherwise get my ass kicked next time I see the Lansdang boys. I'm showing Facebook. It's been here the whole time. Go watch the show on YouTube, dude. And let's see. Yeah, and again, I appreciate all you guys that are loyal and regulars. Trust me, you'll see me around the YouTube. I'm not disappearing. In fact, I'm going to leave you with this. It's going to be my mission to help create the next generation under the Funker Tactical umbrella. The owner and originator and creator of Funker, Paul, has done a great job. He's in the martial arts side. There's a bunch of great trainers that we've worked with in the past, but there's a whole nother generation, not of just great trainers, but great entertainers that are going to be able to put the message out there that we want better than Kevin the Tech Daddy ever could. And when I tell you it's going to be awesome, and when I tell you I'm already on it, it may or may not be on this whiteboard, but I promise you, it's badass, and you're going to be interested in it. So make sure you stay tuned. In the meantime, No, I'm not going to call you after the show. I'm going to go spend time with my wife. See, you have to go back. I'll call you later, though. Thanks, Ranger. Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it with everybody. And the Travi Collective. That is true. No one's paying me to do gun. Well, no one's paying me like, Wayne's World money. I will shout out Ross, Casey, the Googler, Schwell, and Brian. Again, guys who've been on recently quite a bit. Appreciate all the guys that have been along for the ride along the way, even back to Stone Guy, Sully, Eric. Appreciate everybody. I'm sure I'm skipping a few. Q. And like I said, I think the mission's going to be a little bit more of a cleaner, more polished product with a distinct message that we can get to a bigger audience rather than this weekly drip, which I think with the anti-gunners having that face that's, So as a look and follow out, we'll go from the Tag Daddy mag to the Funker mag. A couple of classics. I should auction these off. Maybe one day. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Have a great night. Be safe. Stay tuned, and we will talk to y'all soon. I was never asked to be on. That's because by now, you're starting to get rowdy. Maybe we'll have to have a special episode of Gun News Weekly with just the guys from Lanzang Tactical before they go Hollywood. I mean, they have like t-shirts with unicorns and rainbows. Anyway, appreciate talking to y'all. And again, don't know what it'll be here next week, but stay tuned. I'll have a message on the YouTube channel one way or the other for you, and also on Facebook. Peace. Until then, like I said, we're out.